Major funding for Remaking American Medicine was provided by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, helping Americans lead healthier lives and improving the quality of their care. You can learn more at rwjf.org. And major corporate funding was provided by
the Amgen Foundation, advancing science education, improving quality of care for patients, and supporting resources in our communities, reflecting Amgen's commitment to advance science to dramatically improve people's lives.
Additional funding was provided by the Nathan Cummings Foundation and the Josiah Macy Jr. Foundation.
The clock is ticking. Some patient's getting the wrong medicine. Somebody's about to get an infection. Somebody's going to die.
I was confused, really bewildered by the whole thing. The doctors come here now. We do not go over to the hospital to see them. I refuse to take him there.
We go to the hospital, to the clinic, to our doctor's office. We trust the care we receive will be the best that modern medicine can provide. But too often, that trust is betrayed.
They're giving us money because they killed our child. That's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of.
I mean, it's not just enough to have settled the case. We want to know, how has my mother's death helped somebody else?
Today, doctors, nurses, patients, and families are working to transform the quality of our healthcare.
This is a fundamental change in healthcare delivery.
These are their stories of remaking American medicine. Hello, I'm John Hockenberry. As American medicine relies more and more on complex and sophisticated technology, we as patients are expected to be the passive recipients of care. Nowhere else in our lives do we give up so much control as when we enter a healthcare institution. And yet, the consequences of not being involved in our own healthcare can be devastating. In this program, we present the stories of patients and families who are working hand in hand with the leaders of a teaching hospital in Augusta, Georgia, creating a partnership to prevent harm and sustain life.
All right, Tigger, it is time for you to take a little bit of medicine and a big cup of juice. Okay, do you want to look at more? Are you done? We don't have to look at any more, that's okay.
3-year-old Colby Brown is not having a very good day. Not even Tigger can make him forget why he is here. His mom, Bridget, never forgets.
Brown family?
In his short 3.5 years, he's had over 50 surgeries. We stopped counting at about 40. It doesn't seem to get any easier. There's always anxiety.
Okay, it's really big. Can you carry it? Okay, all right. Let's head back here. Let's find your room, okay?
Bridget and Bruce Brown both work in the medical field. Bruce is an eye surgeon, and until recently, Bridget worked as a nurse in the Army.
Can we put your bracelet on? What do you want? You want on that side?
We're very acutely aware of the complications that can happen, and we're always thinking of all the bad things that can and do happen.
The Brown family knows from personal experience what far too many Americans know all too well: the high price a family pays for medical error.
We lost our first son almost 10 years ago now to a medical mistake. It was a surgical error during a heart surgery. And then when Colby was born, I nearly lost my life to a medication overdose. And Colby has had a medical mistake as well that nearly cost him his life.
You ready, Colby? You ready?
I need to get a good night of sleep.
Ready.
Yeah.
You ready?
Dr. Robin Hatley will be operating on Colby this morning to correct a birth defect that caused his esophagus and trachea not to be connected.
What we have been doing is trying to plug this hole up between the esophagus and the bronchus using something called fibrin glue. And this is our third attempt with it, and we're hoping this one here will do the trick.
We are very familiar with the hospital. We know our way around, but it isn't home away from home. It is still a hospital. And you can be gone for 4 or 5 months and you walk in and the smell hits you. And you get that same anxiety. We're not quite sure what we're dealing with. When I walk through that door as a mother, you relinquish a lot of control. You know, what's going to happen, what tests are going to be run, why are they going to be run, and when it's going to happen.
How are you today?
Carrie Dorsey has had lots of experience with the medical profession and hospitals. Every member of her family has celiac disease, an allergy to wheat that causes very painful reactions. In addition, her son Brian has been diagnosed with a rare and potentially fatal neurological autoimmune disease. Brian's symptoms are varied and confusing.
There you go. He complains of vision just going black, just for a second, and then it says it gets gray, 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 and now he just complains of his vision just going blurry for a minute or two at a time where he just can't seem to focus.
Tilt your head back.
First initial tests were negative, so they wanted to do more tests in the in-hospital visit to rule out that it could be anything serious.
Brian and Carrie will be spending the weekend in the Children's Medical Center to see if his vision problems are caused by epilepsy.
He's sitting up in there watching TV right now. He hasn't had any episodes yet. No episodes. I haven't seen any episodes.
I thought I heard you talking a minute ago.
Go ahead. Just going up to the desk.
Over the course of Daniel's 14 years, he has had 12 heart-related surgeries. 3 of those were pacemakers. He's had neurosurgery due to several strokes that he had after being on the heart-lung machine. And he's also had 150 blood transfusions. He ultimately had a heart transplant, and, you know, we were hoping, okay, this is it, this is the end of it. The truth is, it's not the end of it. And this is current. He's on FK 506.
Okay. Perfect.
3 milligrams in the morning and 3 milligrams in the evening.
It was discovered, I guess, several weeks back that Daniel has a coronary disease. And this is to follow up, going into a catheterization.
So we're hoping for another miracle, that hopefully this medication has, stopped the progression of the coronary artery disease. And I guess it's hard to even think that we're going to have to possibly go through this again.
I just want to find out if I need a new heart or not. And get it over with.
Daniel and his parents have a special relationship to the Children's Medical Center. The Moretz family has played a critical role in creating the very care that they and other patients and families receive here. In 1995, the Medical College of Georgia broke ground for the new Children's Medical Center. 4-year-old Daniel Moretz was part of the groundbreaking team. At that time, Pat Sadomka was the executive director of the Medical College of Georgia Hospital and Clinics.
This project has been characterized by a very unique and unprecedented involvement of parents in the planning process.
This was back in the early 90s. It was a very unusual thing to do, but we were so compelled by the stories we heard from parents that we said, we are going to design this hospital with them as our partners.
Pat Sadomka asked Daniel's mom, Julie, to lead a group of parent advisors working together with the hospital staff to actually help design the new Children's Medical Center.
I guess I've sort of been known as a vocal parent a little bit, and I think when things weren't going right or if expectations weren't made, I would let my thoughts be known, not really to criticize, but to ask, well, why are we doing it this way? And it might be the procedures of why a parent can't be there by their child's bedside. And to me, that just didn't make sense. You know, to me, my son would do better if I was there to help him.
When I came here, families were really peripheral. They were viewed probably as more of an obstacle or more of a nuisance.
Don Snell was hired to completely overhaul the clinical care provided by the hospital.
Medical College of Georgia hospitals and clinics were among the poorest performers of academic medical centers in the country. Patient satisfaction wasn't even being assessed here. This was primarily a teaching institution, so patients were just a vehicle by which teaching was done.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you,
At the time, we had very restrictive rules about visitation. There were attempts to break down that, but it wasn't until we started thinking about the potential for building a new children's hospital that felt better to the people we cared for.
On December 8, 1998, the dreams of Julie Moretz and the other parent advisors came to life when the new Children's Medical Center was opened as part of the Medical College of Georgia.
Our first patient is in.
Among the many features in this remarkable hospital wing is a detail that was near to Julie's heart. Every room has a pull-out bed for family members to spend the night. And there are no longer visiting hours because parents and families are no longer considered visitors, but partners in providing care.
I think it's neat. I like it. It's a bigger room. Got a bigger bathroom. You don't feel like you're squished in here.
First of all, Julie Moretz is the chair of the Family Advisory Council to the Medical College of Georgia's Children's Medical Center.
The Medical College of Georgia started receiving national attention soon after the opening of the Children's Medical Center in 1998.
Don't you believe that the recovery rates are better when there's a family involvement, when the people are in the hospital, and whether it's children or parents or siblings?
There's no question about it. Daniel has had at least 47 doctors that I can count. 47 doctors come in and come out of his room at some given point over 7 years. And I have to recognize that David and I, we are the constant in his life, and we are the ones that can help to promote and facilitate his health care.
Well, ask your family to stand up. Where are they?
Daniel and David, Lee, and Morgan, y'all stand up.
Thank you.
I think that there has been a huge awakening in the healthcare system, and mostly it's come in response to patients who said no, or wait a minute, let's think about this. Why does it have to be this way?
Dr. Carolyn Clancy is a physician and the director of the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, a federal agency with a mandate from Congress to find out what works in healthcare and for whom.
At the end of the day, if they would all agree on what's our common purpose and priorities. Most hospitals today remain very complex, pretty stressed out places, and we have a lot of work to do before we can make this wonderful experience that's truly patient-centered and that works well for the people for providing care, something that happens routinely rather than exceptionally.
Dr. Wiles is here. You want Dr. Wiles to tell you some good news?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good news is that your coronary arteries and your heart and everything about it has not changed at all. It's not gotten any worse. It's not progressed at all.
So I won't need a heart transplant?
Right now.
We really didn't know what this meant, and our doctor very carefully explained that probably what's going to have to happen in the future at some point in time is another heart transplant. And this was something that I was not expecting. You know, I thought we were done with this, but apparently, you know, this is going to be our future. I know you're not supposed to bargain with God, but if you've had a sick child, then you understand where I'm coming from. You do anything you can for your child. And I did. I made that bargain that if he let my son live, that I would do whatever I could to help other people who were going through what we were going through.
Julie Moretz was able to move over time from being a really strong parent, advocate for her child, but also an advocate for all parents. Julie really was instrumental in helping us bring forward parents that were from diverse backgrounds, but who could really speak in a very constructive way with staff.
My name's Carrie Dorsey. My 3 children that are seen on the pediatric side. I have a 9-year-old son who has juvenile dermatomyositis and celiac disease, a 12-year-old daughter who has celiac disease, and a 13-year-old daughter who has celiac disease and reflex sympathetic dystrophy.
As parents or family members or patients, we're wearing a totally different hat.
Julie was hired by the hospital and given the responsibility of recruiting patients and family members as advisors, not just in the Children's Medical Center, but throughout the entire hospital.
Focus. That's why I'm here. And I guess my role and my goal is to help make things better for others. I was very, very fortunate that I guess they just couldn't get rid of me, so they hired me. I had been around the hospital for so long, participating in different committees and different meetings. And so a role was created for me as the Director of Family Services Development. I would like to introduce to you again, you already know Mr. Rick. And
Every month, a special committee meets in the hospital, an advisory group made up of children called Kids Art.
When we talked last time, we asked you what the priority was if we had to limit the amount of work that we were going to do. And I think
Julie and other hospital leaders give these children an opportunity to say what they would like changed about the hospital.
so. We spent a lot of time working on that.
He has worked so hard on this. He's had a lot of meetings, a lot of team people to help pull this together, but it wouldn't have happened without you guys pushing this and really making those recommendations.
Daniel was one of the original members of Kids Art.
Well, I think that's pretty cool because most hospitals, I don't think they give you a choice. As Kids Art, we taste test the food, so we know what's on the menu.
Okay. CJ, did you like the peaches? No. Did you like cookies? Yes. A lot or a little? A lot? How much is a lot? Just to check? 5 times? Okay, I'll put +5.
For Katie Riddenauer and many of these children who have to spend a great amount of time in the hospital, being part of Kids Art gives them a sense of control at a time in their lives when everything seems out of control.
It's important to me because it's good for the hospital, and it's a good chance to see my friends, and it's just a good way to help kids here.
Katie is 13 years old and has recently been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Following a complete hysterectomy, she is now in the Children's Medical Center where she's receiving chemotherapy and medication for managing her pain.
In here. No, okay. Thumbs go in here.
I promise you that if we change give you the patch and you get pain, we can always give you more morphine and control the pain.
Okay.
Okay? So that doesn't mean that we are...
I made a promise to myself that I would go to every Kids Art meeting, and I'm going to keep that promise.
For a moment. Stin, that's a good smile.
That's enough, man. That's enough picture. Good job.
Involving children and parents is an integral part of the culture of the Children's Medical Center.
My name is Jackie Jackson, and I'm an OR bud, and I'm a support parent. And what I do is I escort you back. And
parents like Bridget Brown are even invited to be part of their child's care in the hospital's inner sanctum, the operating room.
You're invited back, if you'd like, into the operating room, and you're invited to be as involved as you want to be. And certainly, I think if it's beyond your comfort level, I'm sure that they would accommodate that as well.
Julie Moretz created a program that allows parents to act as guides for other parents as they enter the operating room.
We have veteran parents who have already walked their child to the operating room several times perhaps, and they want to be able to help other families who are getting ready to also go through that same process.
Jackie Jackson is a volunteer who escorts parents back into the operating room.
I felt like the parent should be there for the child because it's very scary when someone is putting a mask over your face. And it's scary for me when I'm getting a mask put over my face when I'm undergoing some sort of a procedure. So I know that it was very scary for my child.
It's one thing to provide parents a bed to sleep in during their child's hospitalization, but quite another to offer parents the extremely rare opportunity to accompany their child into the operating room. It was one of Julie Moretz's hardest sells to the medical staff.
Maybe it's just because it's new. I know very many hospitals just have never heard of it, and if they have, they just probably don't want to do it. It's really hard to do something that's never really been done before in your particular hospital.
It was important for me to go back to the operating room with Colby in case he was fearful. I was surprised by my reaction. It was much harder for me than I expected it to be. Just that sense of handing over his life, essentially, to someone else was overwhelming, and it was extraordinarily difficult.
You okay? Huh? Yep. Correct. You sure? Oh, yeah. All right. Talk to you shortly.
When he wakes up, if you can give me a holler, we'll just let, after he wakes up, just let him snooze and see how well he does, because most of the time when he's having problems when he's asleep.
After a couple of hours in surgery, Colby is admitted to the pediatric intensive care unit for recovery and observation. This is the area in most hospitals where parents have the greatest difficulty being part of the care team.
You know, some hospitals have a policy to where, you know, the parents are more in the way, and this hospital has a policy to where they very much get the parents involved in all aspects of this care. So it's been a very user-friendly, very nice hospital. You know, for example, in the ICU here, the parents can stay with the children at nighttime, which I think is good for the children and the parents.
All right, sweet boy. I'm gonna read you night-night stories. It's time to go night-night.
Allowing families to spend nights in the pediatric intensive care unit required a new way of thinking for most doctors who now work at the Children's Medical Center.
When I started, a family staying in the intensive care unit, that was unheard of. And whereas right now, that's the norm. And I think that's positive for the kid to look up and be around see a familiar face. Because I always tell people, can you imagine if you were sick and you never saw a familiar face? That'd be awful.
Mommy's gonna be asleep right behind you, okay? You need Mommy, just say, Mommy, I'll be right here.
Good morning. You're looking better than yesterday.
Spending the night in the ICU allows a parent like Bridget Brown to play an active role in her child's care when the medical team makes their rounds.
Actually, in places I've been elsewhere, they ask you to leave. There's a 2-hour time frame where they ask the family to leave, and so you don't really know it's being said.
How do you feel he's doing compared to baseline?
I think he's doing well. He's not as labored as I was anticipating he would be. I think he is struggling more so than would be baseline, though.
I know about childhood development and changing physiology and the pathophysiology of a critically ill child, but I don't know about that individual child. I rely on the family to tell me about the child and what they're like, what they respond to, so I can know what I'm shooting for. Does he occasionally have oxygen at home?
I have O2 at home. I've never had to use it. Okay. I have it supply, though. Certainly his O2 requirements are higher than he would be ordinarily.
Colby Brown.
Given Bridget's experiences in hospitals with medication errors and the death of her first son, knowing exactly what is happening to Colby is extremely important to her.
You bet Dad will be here soon? That would be nice, wouldn't it? You think so? I will monitor the doses, and I will ask what dose is this going to be, and I'm careful not to be questioning about it or antagonistic. I think everyone appreciates that. All done.
They're going.
Thank you.
Pulled it off again.
Yeah.
We'll go put it right back on.
I guess he's feeling better. It's a good sign.
Hey, man.
Dr. Hatley?
You gonna? Hey, buddy. Has he been barking any?
No.
I guess if things continue to go well, I'll discharge you from here.
Okay.
Give him to probably, I'd say maybe 1,
Okay.
2 o'clock.
That'd be great. You ready to get dressed?
From
We'll go get Miranda?
the surgery last night, this morning, the kid looks great. I'm as pleased as I could be. I couldn't ask for it to be any better. Now, I want you to ask me that a month from now. Now, if I can tell you that a month from now, I even have a bigger smile on my face.
Yep. You have one out already.
Bridget, Bruce, and Colby's sister Miranda have all become experts at caring for Colby at home.
For dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
We got a wonderful family to work with. They're bright people. They research things along with me. They'll give me ideas and say, what do you think about this? And that makes my job easier when you have someone that will work with you.
Give Mommy a kiss. Mwah. Night night. Sweet dreams. Hey, how are you? What picture do you want, Colby, of Miranda?
Unfortunately, within 6 weeks of leaving the Children's Medical Center, the Brown family was forced to return.
Okay, you ready?
Dr. Hatley's efforts to close the hole in Colby's esophagus didn't work. So Bridget and Colby flew to Colorado in the hope that a surgeon there might be able to close the opening in Colby's esophagus with thoracoscopic surgery. But by the time they returned to Augusta, Colby was running a fever.
Dr. Hatley and I stared at the CT scan together, and neither of us could believe how bad it looked and yet how good Colby looked comparatively.
But we made progress in 16 days.
It just took the picture.
Yeah, they took your picture and now it's done. And I am so proud of you.
When Colby was hospitalized this time, he started out in the ICU and then was transferred to a medical unit. It was during that move that problems arose.
He has 2 ports on his gastrostomy tube. One goes into his stomach and one goes into his intestines. And Dr. Hatley had wanted him to have nothing, even into his intestines, for 2 weeks at least. And I guess it was a young resident had written to start feedings up into his stomach, which could have been disastrous because it could go through that hole and into his chest. And so a nurse said, well, I see we're going to start feeding him into his stomach. And I said, well, that just can't be right. And I talked to Dr. Christian. I said, that must be a mistake.
We discussed it with the person who had written that order and made sure, gave him feedback and made him realize that this was not what we wanted. And so it was a team effort. Ms. Brown played a critical role in that. And so I ran by and talked to Dr. Hatley about it, and he said he was okay with that. So what we'll do is we'll do the heparin in there, but we'll run it at 2 mLs an hour just to be on the safer side.
You just really need to be paying attention, and someone needs to know what's going on. And it doesn't need to be a medical person, but you need to know what the general plan is and where things are going. That'll help prevent it from bowing at least.
Trying to get it to stick. Okay.
Got a sweaty little face. All done.
You gave me 5?
The stress of this long hospitalization, the close call with yet another medical error, and the uncertainty about Colby's future is taking its toll on the whole family.
I'm worried about my daughter because she's having a tough time. Just feeling like we're not there, we're not at home. Look who's here.
Oh, look here, Kobe.
Are you happy to see her? Look who it is. Let's play catch. I knew that was coming. All right. You want to throw it? I'll throw it to you and you throw it to Miranda, okay? Ready? Get it. Get Miranda.
Colby will be going home soon. For now, his family's current crisis is nearly over, but they can never be certain when they will be back in the hospital. But at least they know they'll always be welcome as partners in his care. The Children's Medical Center is only a small part of MCG Health System. The adult units of this teaching hospital are strikingly different from the children's floors, more like most hospitals in appearance and in the way care is delivered.
When we first assessed patient and family satisfaction, the Children's Medical Center ended up at literally the top children's hospital in the country in terms of patient satisfaction. And yet on the adult side, we were among the bottom in terms of satisfaction. And so we all began to say, what's the difference?
The first thing that is noticeably different from the Children's Medical Center is that many of the rooms are not designed to accommodate families spending nights with their loved ones.
You've been digging for a long time?
Yeah.
You know what it is for? This your project?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was depressed.
Yes.
If families can't always be in the room, they cannot provide the support or protection that Bridget Brown gave to her son, Colby.
The doctor said, that's where you got to go. Because you got to heal your
To invite families to participate in the care of their loved ones, MCG must design new units with them in mind. That proved to be a major challenge for the adult side of the hospital.
In pediatrics, people do naturally come together around families. In adult care, it is so departmentalized that it is a much bigger challenge in adult care. We struggled really for several years trying to find a place where we could help people see they could partner with patients and something good would come out of it.
I'm very pleased to welcome all of you to this ribbon cutting to celebrate the opening of this very special unit.
The new Neuroscience Center is a 20-bed unit in the adult hospital that cares for patients recovering from stroke or brain surgery.
Is here this morning. How you doing?
Half the rooms can be used for intensive care or converted to a regular medical room.
Palms up toward the ceiling, close your eyes.
And all the rooms have beds available for families to spend the night.
Is that going to continue to happen, to thicken, to...
We don't really know. There's repeat MRIs. Imaging will be able to tell us.
Just like in the Children's Medical Center, a family member like Peggy Elliott can be with her loved one, her husband John, when he needs her the most.
I had brain surgery yesterday. It was very comforting to have Peggy there and holding me and talking to me.
It was so much better than sitting out in a waiting room, wondering what was happening, knowing that he was in a great deal of pain and knowing that what was happening was very, very serious. Being able to stay with him, to help calm him, to touch him, talk to him, it meant a lot to me personally. Do you walk just as well looking at me when you look at me?
No, because we have to see the room going.
In my opinion, if you're going to take someone home after something traumatic like a major surgery, the more you know and the more you've been able to be with them and to understand, the more comfortable you are with them once you get them home.
Okay, you can stand up.
He's got no problem doing that.
Okay, we're gonna...
How many times have you had Decadron today, honey? Do you remember?
That's it.
This is the only time? Okay. Anything that they hang on to drip into him, I say, what is that? And what is the potency of it? How might it react with other things he's taken? Or is this the normal dosage? So I feel a lot more comfortable that there are two of us that are being the patient. And one is able to walk and talk and move around and help put things in perspective. And one of us may not be able to. There's just one more pair of eyes watching over. Just one more little angel sitting on his shoulder.
Dr. David Hess is chairman of the Department of Neurology at the Medical College of Georgia.
Okay, Geraint. What's this called? What do you call this?
Camera.
A camera?
Yeah.
That's what we call paraphasic error. It's a word substitution. I think having the family member there and seeing everything being done is extremely helpful. I don't think it's just a touchy-feely thing. I mean, I think you could dismiss it initially like that, and some healthcare providers could be threatened by it because it's different than the old kind of vertical way we used to do medical care where the attending was almighty. Well, we're going to go in a room now, okay? Let's go. Back in 2000, it was a problematic floor to work on. You would not have recognized it from what it is today. And frankly, it had one of the worst patient satisfaction scores. It had a high turnover of nurses. It was hard to get to know the nurses because they were changing a lot. It wasn't as stable of a staff.
And they're, make sure that we include them in the plan?
Yes, that'll be good.
Okay.
Rosalind Marshall is the nurse manager of the Neuroscience Center and a leader of the team that created the new unit.
Whatever's convenient for you and your family, okay? It was difficult in the beginning to pull all disciplines together, and it took several meetings and several conferences with our patient advisors to listen to what they wanted.
I want to pick your brains about discharge planning and preparation for home.
Why it was important for them to be a part of the care.
I think about what is it that makes, my son's health care work, really. How is it that doctors and nurses and supporting staff can help me take care of my son better? And
The advisory committee drew upon Julie Moretz's experience designing the Children's Medical Center to help them create the Neuroscience Center.
this is our goal. This is what we are striving to achieve.
I know the difference on who's
Mark Hines was one of the first patients invited to be an advisor.
We sat down and talked amongst ourselves, and we felt that we wanted to make a unit that everybody could come and be proud of and want to duplicate. Because someone's less aggressive, let's look at them and see how they can fit into the picture.
The patient rooms are going to be this shade of blue for the most part, and then the back wall of each room is going to be a different accent color.
Asking patients what they wanted the new unit to look and feel like was an important first step by the hospital in transforming their relationship with patients. But the patient advisors had an even more radical idea.
The patients decided that they wanted to interview all the staff, all the disciplines, including the physicians, housekeeping, everyone involved in the care. We're in the process of hiring staff for the unit. Some staff have already been hired, and they're in the orientation phase right now. So the patients actually interviewed me. I passed. Thank goodness I passed with flying colors. Everyone, we're glad to be here today to celebrate our second anniversary of opening of the 3 West Neuroscience Center. We're very excited.
The Neuroscience Center has become the model for the rest of the hospital for how to partner with families in caring for adults.
And what we've learned here is that we're a stronger team, a better team, with the patients at our side. Our next area that we're focusing on is developing a cardiovascular center of excellence, embedding all these values into what will be one of our, I think, most challenging areas.
The nurse's station and the procedure room, this would be your vertical surfaces, this would be your horizontal surfaces, your work surface.
The planning committee makes decisions on all aspects of the new center, from the makeup of the staff to the color of the tiles, drawing upon the lessons learned during the creation of the Neuroscience Center.
The way I understand it, we're going to be basing some of our
planning on what they've done, and I would just like to see it firsthand.
What we can do is to sort of move over to one of the ICU rooms, and then we can sort of walk you through that process, okay?
You know, you need certain things, or you wish they had certain things. And as long as we can come up with these ideas before we get our unit.
Partnerships between patients, families, and the clinical staff are slowly becoming the driving force behind each new clinical area of the
I
hospital.
love that thing about lighting being controlled from the bed.
Oh, absolutely.
That'll be fun. Okay.
This is so much better than the ICU unit on the 4th floor.
In 6 years, MCG Health System has been transformed from one of the worst performing academic medical centers in the country into being nationally recognized for providing high-quality health care.
A lot of the new programs that we have put in place, the neurosciences unit, the cardiovascular center over at Chaffee, sports medicine, the Lake Oconee facility are all in the 95th percentile or better. So we are miles apart from where we were when we started. Going from a $25 million loss to a $30 million positive margin, going from a mortality rate of 1.29 to 0.81, going from patient satisfaction in the worst 10-15% in the country to being among the leaders. So the performance has radically turned around. These are the major accolades. They tie back to the metrics that we established. We did make Solutions 100 Top Hospitals last year. National Research Corporation, you wouldn't know it by looking at the billboards, but we have won it the last 3 out of the 5 years. And in the UHC benchmarking projects, our stroke program in 03 came out #1 in the country.
Great. Well, we are just so happy to have all of you here. We love to show off our hospital, and we love to talk about our programs with family-centered care, and we really appreciate y'all entrusting, in essence, your future with us.
From across the country, teams of healthcare providers come to Augusta to learn how to transform their institutions to include patients and families as partners in the delivery of care.
Built low nursing stations with places for kids to sit, read a book. Kids can look over so that there's no big barriers.
They want both parents to be able to sleep in the room. Okay, pull the trundle out under your feet.
My sense of the Medical College of Georgia is that they've made it a institution-wide focus on patient-centered care. And I think that's what all of us in healthcare have to strive for, so that that wonderful coming together of compassion, information, the best science happens systematically rather than almost coincidentally. And that's what I really see the Medical College of Georgia has tried to provide.
Every time you put on your white coat, I want you to remember that healthcare without respect, healthcare without caring for your patients as individuals may be efficient, but it'll never be effective at truly healing.
Richard, congratulations, Abel.
Dr. Dan Rahn is the president of the Medical College of Georgia.
Our students learn not just from what we say, but from what we do. So if we expect them to embrace careers as health professionals in which they will actively engage patients in their own care, then we have to demonstrate its importance every day.
Any questions?
Not at this point.
Where's the rest of the gang?
At a funeral. Getting ready for a funeral.
Oh, really?
Another family funeral.
But I think the physicians that we're training now, they're used to it. They're used to the families being right there. They're used to the families being intimately involved in the decisions.
And he's on albuterol, Jetnebs, Q6 hours, PRN. His respiratory rate has ranged.
While medical students, nursing students, and residents will learn about partnering with patients and families in the Children's Medical Center and the Neuroscience Center, these two areas are still only a small part of the teaching experience of the Medical College of Georgia.
Treatment with surgery and antibiotics.
We have formed an interdisciplinary committee to embrace the incorporation of patient and family-centered care into all aspects of the curriculum.
And we know, too, that every school is really embracing the components of patient and family-centered care, but how are we doing that?
But academic medical centers are slow to change. It will be years before partnering with patients and families is an integral part of the curriculum.
Knock, knock. Hey, Brian. How are you doing? Good. Hey, Carrie.
Hey, Julie. How are you?
I'm good.
In the meantime, Julie Moretz invites parents like Carrie Dorsey to share her experiences in the hospital with students.
I have never met your
This is
parents.
Victor
I'm Julie
Weintraub.
Moretz.
I guess I've known Julie for 7 years now. I don't know, whenever she calls, I'll bend over backwards to do whatever it is she's asking me to do. Yeah. Don't pull. Don't pull. This one.
During this hospitalization, Carrie and Brian spent the weekend in the Children's Medical Center, while the team closely monitored Brian for signs of epilepsy.
1, 3. It was so cold in the exam room that Brian was changing colors. I thought this was going to be pretty much a non-event because we weren't going to have any major testing done, but I found it to be just as stressful as any other visit. They said what you have is called ocular migraines.
Despite the stress of constantly worrying about the health of her son, Carrie is willing to help Julie educate students about what medical care feels like from her family's perspective.
We have used many of our advisors as family faculty, and this is where they get up and share their story. It may be before a medical student group. It may be before a School of Nursing group. It may be before the School of Allied Health.
It's been a long 4 days. Oh, wow. Not a lot of sleep, but we can do this. We can get through this. So.
This morning, Carrie has agreed to talk to a class of nurses.
It is my pleasure at this time to introduce Carrie. Carrie Dorsey.
You have that ability every time you walk into a patient's room to make a difference, to turn even a very scary negative visit into something positive. They eventually will see another nurse or another doctor later on down the road. And every experience builds on each other, especially with children. Especially with children. Julie, can I rest a second? I feel like I'm going to pass out.
Need some water?
Yeah, just give me my water a second.
Y'all should know, too, Carrie's son is in the hospital right now, so she agreed to go ahead and do this with us, so we appreciate her being here. And we know that she's had a very strenuous time right now after spending 4 days, 4 nights in the hospital. And she is...
I think it's so valuable for us to share our life story, and I always dread it because it's such a painful journey back. And we lived it for 7.5 years. So I'm exhausted afterwards. But I think it's important to stand up there and say, this is what I've been through. I tell you, we also have food issues, so I haven't eaten like I normally would either. I'm just going to move on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saburka. It truly is an honor to be here with you this morning. I think we really have a dynamic program scheduled for you. It is our hope that we will be able to drive home.
For the past several years, Julie has played a very central role in telling her story. If we teach them through the eyes of the patients and their families, they get it.
I continue to be so grateful to every healthcare professional who, just like you, got up every morning and made it their mission to learn their profession in an expert manner, because that is what kept Daniel alive. So you get to go back to school?
No, I want to.
Since his last catheterization procedure, Daniel has developed swelling in his legs. Julie is taking him to get an MRI to find out if his coronary artery disease has progressed.
I've been fine, but I just took my shoe and I noticed that my foot was big. And since then, from now, I've had to go twice at doctor's appointments for my heart and my foot, and they cannot explain it.
You gonna watch? You're gonna watch me. Okay. I am anxious about this one because I think we're running out of options, and I like the fact that we don't think it's his heart, but of course the concern is, and what is it? Is this going to be something new introduced that we have to look at?
down your back of your head there, okay, ma'am? Okay, again, like I said, we're gonna take pictures.
Within weeks of Julie bringing Daniel into the MRI exam room, they were back in the Children's Medical Center, wheeling him to the operating room for an emergency catheterization to determine just how blocked his arteries were and what could be done.
We walked with him to the cath lab. We kissed him goodbye, and we told him that we loved him, but we didn't know that that was going to be the very last time he ever heard us say that. And then he was wheeled off into the cath lab.
In the midst of a procedure that Daniel had experienced so many times before, he suffered cardiac arrest and died 2 days later.
Daniel was the inspiration for the Children's Heart Program that serves children with heart disease and their families. Other cardiac programs throughout the country have tried to copy that. Family-centered healthcare, for which MCG is nationally renowned, evolved from the Children's Heart Program. Therefore, Daniel has not been just an inspiration in Augusta or Georgia or South Carolina, but to children, he has been an inspiration throughout the country.
Tonight is our Kids Art, our Children's Advisory Council meeting, and this will be, of course, the meeting Daniel won't be at. I really wanted to decorate a little Christmas tree for Daniel to put out at the cemetery because Christmas was his most favorite time of the year, and red is his favorite color. Can you tell? And so I would like to ask you, if you would like to write your initials or to write something on these little Christmas balls. I believe that Daniel felt so much at home here in his hospital. He called this his hospital. I look around and I just see so many things that my son was a part of, that I've been a part of developing. And now it won't benefit Daniel, but it will benefit other children. There are other children who have yet to be diagnosed, and this is why our work has to continue.
On December 28, 2005, Katie died at home, surrounded by family and friends. Brian no longer suffers from blackouts and has started to play soccer. Colby is now consuming food orally and has not needed hospitalization for months.
Involving patients and families as members of the care team is a new way of thinking. It means breaking down the barriers that prevent all of us from taking control of our own health care. In this series, we have met people who are creating a healthcare system that heals rather than harms, that prevents illness rather than reacts to emergencies, that provides access to information whenever or wherever we enter a healthcare institution. These pioneers are showing us what is possible, what it means to remake American medicine. I'm John Hockenberry. Thanks for watching.
To learn more about how to improve the quality of your own health care, visit pbs.org. Major funding for Remaking American Medicine was provided by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, helping Americans lead healthier lives and improving the quality of their care. You can learn more at rwjf.org. And major corporate funding was provided by
the Amgen Foundation, advancing science education, improving quality of care for patients, and supporting resources in our communities, reflecting Amgen's commitment to advance science to dramatically improve people's lives.
Additional funding was provided by the Nathan Cummings Foundation and the Josiah Macy Jr. Foundation.